Hey everyone, it's Ryan from Golden Beauty Kennels. Kirsten and I want to go through some very important things that normally we would talk to you about these things when you're coming and visiting, but over the years we figured out that it's a lot of things to pay attention to and a lot of extra information. And it might be really good for you to be able to go back and see what we were talking about because it's a ton of information. And when you're here, you want to play with the puppies. So we want to give you a bunch of information today on a bunch of the different tools and things that we use. You will find links to every one of the things that we're talking about on the website. We don't do affiliate links and all that kind of stuff, but you can at least find out where we get each one of the things. Almost everything is Amazon or one of your local pet stores. The first thing I wanted to talk about was food. So here we feed Purina Pro Plan, and very specifically, we feed the one that is the lamb and rice formula. So if you're looking to go out and get some of the food, this is literally the bag. It's got a cute little puppy on the front of it, and you'll see on the bottom it's for puppies, and it's lamb and rice. It is not a big deal if you want to switch over to one of their other versions, chicken and rice, or I think they also make a beef and some others. There's plenty there to options, but the most important thing there is to feed a good quality food. So if you want to switch away, that's fine. We're going to give you plenty of food when you start, so that if you are going to transition food, we will have that quantity of our food so you can make that transition properly. But otherwise, if you don't really have an opinion and you're not working with a nutritionist or something like that, the easiest thing in the world is just to start right here because it's available basically at every major pet food place, and then we get a lot of our stuff shipped from Chewy, so that's a great option there. When we're talking about actually feeding the dog though, we want to talk about food and water bowls. So over here, I have several different options of bowls. The important part here is you're going to see we have stainless bowls, we have ceramic bowls, and then we have ones that these are called slow feeder bowls. You're going to find that your golden retriever is addicted to food. They're highly motivated by food, and they will want to eat very quickly. One of the things that you'll probably need to do is slow them down just a little bit. So that's why we have this type of bowl here. It's stainless and the ceramic are really important because the plastic ones, if you start to clean them, they can actually get a lot of bacteria inside the plastic little grooves and the scratches that you create. So it's really important as long as it's a solid something, so ceramic or steel, use those. You'll notice on our water bowl here that it is sloped to the side. You will really appreciate a sloped water bowl because otherwise, if you were to put your water in, say, something like this, and they pull on it, they're going to tip it right over. And I assure you, they are very good at tipping water over because they like to put their paws in it and play with it. So one like this, these are super cheap. They've got a little bit of rubber on them. They stick. They do a great job, and they're super easy to clean. Another option from slowing the dog down is a slow feeding mat or sniffle mat. There's a lot of different versions of them, but basically you can put the kibble inside of here and they have to dig their noses down in there and they start having to, and it actually wears the brain out a little bit. So if you're thinking you're gonna be gone for a little while, something like this where it really slows them down will be helpful because it also exercises their brain. So that's everything on the pet food side. Let me move that out of the way. Next up I want to hit is a conversation on the various grooming type things that you might like to have. For brushes, a very simple pin brush is your everyday brush. These are super cheap. You can get them all over the place. Just the pin side. This side over here is fine, but you're never going to use it. But this side here is your everyday. Just run it a couple of times, across them, and especially on their hindquarters and things like that. You want to get your puppy will not have any fur really coming off of them and shedding at the very beginning. But trust me, eventually that'll occur. But if you're doing this at the beginning, they get very used to it. And by the way, they all love it. So so this is your everyday brush. The next brush you're going to use a lot is called an undercoat rake. You will see this one here has a little bit of a hook to it here on either side. And when you pull it through, it goes into the bottom layer and pulls off any of the fur that is kind of on the bottom. And it's also going to get out if there's any tangles and things like that. There is one called a furminator that we're going to tell you not to get. because the furminator actually will rip the hair out of the dog, and it's not good for them. It will pull off a bunch of hair, but it'll also then potentially damage the skin. So just something nice and simple, and they're called an undercoat rake. We've got a couple of these. Heck, our cats like it. So from there, it's a really simple tool to use. And then the third one is a slicker brush or a finishing brush. You don't need one quite this nice. As you can imagine, we do a lot of brushing of our dogs, and sometimes we need to make them look pretty. But this is exactly what it's for. It'll make their fur look really great. So if you're taking them to someplace and you want them to look their best, a simple slicker brush will work. You can get them for $10-20. As long as they kind of look like this with the little rakes. You don't need a super fancy one like this one. All right, more grooming. The next thing that you're gonna start doing is just a very little bit of maintenance that you're gonna have to do. The good news is golden retrievers, for the most part, you don't have to take them to the groomers frequently at all. I don't think we've ever taken our Goldens to the groomer, with the exception some people will want to have the groomer or someone like a PetSmart or someplace like that do their nails, and that's fine. But as far as actually trimming a golden, you definitely do not want to shave a golden ever. And if you do want to trim some things, you can do some light, just kind of making it look pretty to show people. Will do some of that. But for the most part, for most of us, that's not necessary at all. You will, however, want to trim in their toe pads. And so something like this, where it is just a simple battery operated pad, it's perfectly safe. So while it vibrates, it won't actually hurt them in any way. And you can get in between those toe pads and also on top, and you can we kind of call it Grinch feet. But you can kind of do a little bit of trimming there to make that look a little nicer. And then we get into nail trimming. And there are two different ways to do the nail trim. One is one like this, where it is more of a chopper kind of a scenario here. If you're going to use this type, you want to this is where you would spend the extra $5 to get the really good one, because you don't want to be slowly pressing this in. You want it to be a very quick chop. So if you ever seen any of the groomers on YouTube and things like that, you'll see if they're doing them, they're going clip, 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 clip. They're going very, very quick. And the way you can do that is if you have a good spring-loaded particular one. These are not super expensive. Some people, though, don't like using this. And Kirsten, who does most of the nail trim around here, she doesn't like using these. She prefers the Dremel side or the rotary tool type. So when you turn this on, it just grinds it away and things like that. So you're less likely when doing this to have it be something that they don't like, and at the same time a lot less likely to hit the quick, which is the thing that if you hit that, you'll feel terrible, and then they don't like the clippers. So either one of these, so a really good version of one of these, there's a whole bunch of variety of this, or take them to somebody else and let them do the nail clipping. But it's very important because the nails do get pretty long. From a grooming perspective, I think that is all of those things. Let me talk about bathing. So you will need to bathe your golden retriever on an occasion. I jokingly say that they are self-cleaning. When they come in, if they got a little bit of dirt on them and things like that, and they're a little bit muddy or something like that, it'll eventually just dry and just kind of fall off. Of course, it's going to be on your floor. But if they get really dirty, and then every 3 months or so, maybe 6 months, you're going to want to give them an actual bath. So you want to make sure that you're using appropriate shampoos and conditioners for the dog, and you have a towel. Be prepared for the dog to run around and act like absolute Looney Tunes when they get done with their bath, because they're super excited and they've had a really good time in there. But at the same time, definitely you don't have to do it too often, but you'll want to do it some of the time, so you want to be prepared for that. From a training perspective, I'm going to talk about obedience training. This is a simple dog clicker. You can use this kind. For the most part, we don't use the clickers, which is why you don't hear the dogs going nuts right now thinking they just did something great. A lot of times we just use verbal commands and say yes and things like that to indicate that they've done a good thing. For your obedience work, what I would tell you is the most important thing is for you guys to get signed up for a puppy obedience class. If you're on a puppy obedience class, they're going to teach you sit, stay, come, leave it, things like that are very important. And then the other command that you're really going to want to get is called place. You're going to want to have a spot in your house that you designate as place, that's where they go. that is, so it has a lot of benefits. There's a lot of videos out there on the benefits of a place command. We're working on that ourselves to make that a little bit better for greeting when people come in. So just understand that basic obedience, as long as the place is teaching positive reinforcement, you'll be fine. So PetSmart, Petco, your local, wherever, it's perfectly fine. They're most all now teaching positive reinforcement. Most of the time in those courses, they're actually teaching you more than they're teaching the dog. It's how teaching you on how to train your dog. So from there, I'll leave it at that. For speaking of training, I'm going to try not to make this super loud. Things like this going on the door. This is a set of bells that you can hang from the door, and you can teach the dog that they use their nose and will tell you that when it's time to go outside. So this is really important for potty training, because you want them to be able to know how to tell you it's time for them to go outside. A set of bells is great. They have little buttons that you can press. They have whatever the cue is that you and your dog are going to set up. You just want to make sure that you understand what their cue is, and that'll help get things out to the potty. We will talk more at a different time about the full thing on potty train so you're successful, but I want to put a phrase in your head right away, which is inputs equal outputs. And what that'll be really important is if at some point in time in the evening, you're going to want to cut your puppy off from all food and water, maybe 6, 7 o'clock, something like that, right after dinner, and they go outside several times between there, and then they go to bed. That will help make it so that they don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and go outside and go potty. So we'll talk more about that, but inputs equal outputs when it comes to that. When we start talking about taking our dogs out, we want to talk about leashes and collars and things like that. All the collars are great. You can use any type that you want. Most of them have little buckles and things like that. The aesthetics are yours. Some of the things from a leash and collar perspective, we're going to talk about harnesses versus slip leads versus retractable leads. We would recommend that you use a standard collar with a standard leash or standard collar with a slip lead until you are very much in control of your dog. If you start using a harness at the beginning, it'll be harder to do both. If you start with the leash and collar, you'll find yourself being very successful, and then you can use a harness if you would like. If you choose to use a harness, it's very important to get the right type of harness. And the right type is, so if this is the head of the dog here, we do not want to use this particular loop right back here. And the one that's back here on their back, all it's going to teach them is how to be a sled dog. It's going to highly encourage them to pull, and that's the opposite of what you're looking for. So some of them will have a ring on the chest. That one's good. Or some of them will have them on the outsides, on the left or the right side. Those are fine. And what happens is when you pull on one that's on the middle on their chest or on here, it pulls them off angle, and it gets them to stop going the way that they want to go. So I think you'll find that you'll be very happy, you'll be very successful. And then once they are a little bit bigger and you've got good control and they're do a good leash walk with you, something like this is great because one of the things they have is a handle. And it is kind of nice to be able, when you're in traffic or you're with other people, to be able to kind of reach down and just grab them from there. It is kind of nice. But when they're super little, we want to use a slip lead. These are super simple. It literally slips from there. You put it right on there, and then when you relax, it releases the leash from there. They have little stops on them. So basically, it makes it very easy for you to correct the dog. We can show you when you get here, we'll show you with the big dogs and things like that so you can see it, but super cheap. We've got ones with nice cushy handle. For us, the retractable leash. I'm probably not going to want to use one of these for about a year. These are fine for going out on sniff walks. And again, you're very much in control of your dog. But this is what we would take Rowan and Sky and Charlotte out if we're really trying to exercise their brain. And that's really okay for them to go any which way they want to, because they are not in your control. If you're on this, they are taking you on a walk, not you taking them on a walk. So you want to make sure at the very beginning that we're not using one of these. And when you do want to use one of these, get a good sturdy one like this. You'll really appreciate it over the smaller ones, because the handles aren't as good on those little ones, and it'll be a lot harder to control the dog if you needed to. All right. For toys, things that we have found that the dogs just love all the time. I think no one's going to be surprised to hear about a Kong. This is the classic Kong. They come in a lot of different versions, but a Kong toy, this rubber, they can chew on it all day long and they'll be fine. And what you're going to want to do is stuff them. There's recipe sites out there and things like that, but something's really simple is just some peanut butter in there with their kibble, and then you freeze it. When you freeze it, it takes them a long time to get through it. So if they're in their kennels for extended periods of time, having multiples of these in your freezer ready to go is a really good idea. So easy pickup for that. Sometimes they make ones like that in just different materials. So I'm just showing you one that we have here. It's a little pineapple. We have a grenade. We have some other ones that are kind of funny. So this is still material, but they're very, very tough. So if you got your dog is going through land shark mode, some things like this that they definitely can't tear up are really helpful to have. Things that we have found that the dogs just love all the time. The leather type, these are just basic leather sewn together. You can see this has been chewed all the heck. This is also made out of leather. The dogs just love it. They will sit down and gnaw on them for days. So these things do a really good job and they last a long time. Their other favorites are coming from our animals. So buffalo horns, that's what these little guys are. This one happens to be stuffed, but we have buffalo horns that are every bit as old as Sky is, from there, and they still grab them out and chew on them and play with them. So these are easily their favorites, but from a long term, the antlers from the elk antlers and deer antlers, if you can get a hold of them, they're great. They're kind of expensive, but boy, your dog's going to love it. But they will go through this reasonably quickly, unlike the horns and the other things that I was showing you. This one doesn't last as long, but these do. So, but some of the antlers can last a long time too. So, but they are a little bit more expensive. I just want you to be aware of that. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that are going to be going home with you. We already talked to you about the food. You're all going to get a snuggle puppy. These are designed to help transition them from being with their litter mates right now, and they're always sleeping on top of each other. I think you've probably seen some of the videos and photos where they're all just kind of piled up on top of each other. So they're used to being around each other. When they get to you, it will be one of the first times that they are not around a whole bunch of other things just like them. So this little thing's about their size as a puppy, and it has a little thing that you'll put inside it, and it beats like a heartbeat. This goes into their kennel and helps them sleep at night. The other thing that we're going to send home with you is a blanket. Right now this blanket's all nice and neat, but what's going to happen is we're going to put the blanket that you're going to get with mom, with their grandma and sisters and all the brothers and sisters, and it's going to smell like what they're used to. So the opportunity here, it's going to feel like they're next to somebody and they can feel the heartbeat, and then they're going to smell what they're used to smelling, and that'll help transition things over for you into your house. So those are the things that we wanted to make sure that we covered. Also, I guess I did want one other topic. There's nothing here for it, but it's about vaccinations and socialization. So we are going to get your dogs their first inoculations at week 6. Then after that, you're going to want to have set up an appointment with your vet. For when you pick them up, we want you to have the well puppy check to make sure that, because we're saying that this dog is in great health, we'd like for you to also double check that. But at the same time, set up the additional vaccinations. Your dog is not going to be fully vaccinated until they're 16 weeks old. The problem with that is that there's a really important window between then and 12 weeks, when they're born and when they're 12 weeks. And getting into that 16th week, where they are absolutely a sponge for socialization without getting into a fear cycle. And so it's really important that, and I've talked to a lot of our vets and other vets, and they all kind of agree that getting them out and socializing them early is important, but you do want to do that in a controlled environment. So if it's at your house, if it's at your neighbor's house, if they have animals and they're fully vaccinated, that's fine. But you wouldn't want to go to the dog park. You wouldn't want to go to let them run around on the floor at at PetSmart or something like that, where there's a chance or a high chance there's lots of dogs and you don't know if they're fully vaccinated or not. So because they are still susceptible to some pretty important things, we want to make sure that you do that. But getting them out, one of our favorite things to do is to take them to Lowe's. All the Lowe's will let you put them. You just put them in their little cart and pull them around. By the way, if you do take your golden retriever to Lowe's, just know that you're in there for an hour because everybody's going to come up, wanting to say hi to your dog. They want to say hi to the puppies and all that kind of stuff. They think it's great, and you can get the little dog down and you can let them run around a little bit, sniff all the things, and hear all the sounds. It's a great place for socialization, especially since you guys are going to be getting yours in February. It'll be a great place to that's indoors that you can get them out and let them see things and let them see other people. So we hope this was helpful, that we put this onto a video so you can kind of go back and see those things. We'll touch base with you on this when you are at our house, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we can spend as much time with you and the dogs as possible. So thank you very much and have a great night.